Awesome. So we are recording.
Awesome.
Awesome. So, okay. So we've got some folks on. That's exciting. Let me close this right here. So welcome everybody to our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about unlocking autism now. And today, Dr. Kamille Miles and I are going to talk to you about, supplementation as it relates to autism. And so we know, so my background, just before we get started, kind of like who's sharing with you today, my background was corporate human resources. I was a VP of human resources for 20 years with a Fortune 500 company. I loved what I did. And unfortunately, in 2004, I got sick. And from 2004 to 2011, I was battling some really, really significant health issues. And so my passion for wanting to be proactive about health and sharing about supplementation on so many different levels comes from the fact that I really, lost all quality of life during that time that I was sick. And then just as I was starting to do a lot better, then I was diagnosed with breast cancer and went through the breast cancer journey. And so I kind of totally switched careers because I found that what my passion is helping people and educating people on how to get their lives back. And so that's how we met Kamille. And Kamille, she's based out of Phoenix, Arizona. And Kamille, why don't you share your story and how you guys got involved and what drives you and your passion?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Kamille, like she said, and I do have a doctorate of pharmacy. So I'm a pharmacist and a mommy of 4. And similar to Brenda, this kind of fell in my lap. Just as a pharmacist, I just went into that, just wanting to help others. Super passionate about health and wellness. And my oldest son is Caleb, aka CJ. And he was diagnosed with autism. And so we just were on the autism journey. And so that's why we're doing this webinar today, because I'm just super passionate about it. And to the point that, my husband and I, we created an initiative, Unlocking Autism Now. And so just because it's a lonely road and it's a journey. And so we just want to be there just to support others. And so we just want to thank everybody for tuning in to this webinar. And we hope you just share it with anybody who you think could benefit from it, because that's what it's about. It's about just helping others. And so just a little bit about, our us and our story a few years ago. CJ, he's awesome. And when he was diagnosed, like many people, if you're familiar or if you're a parent or you're in the autism community, you know that there's not a lot of communication or speech sometimes. And so CJ, he at the time, and no eye contact, everything was very prompted. And so you just have to tell him what to say. And so say hi, Brenda, say hi, Brenda. He wasn't sleeping through the night. So I wasn't sleeping through the night. He was always up, from like 1 to 5. And he didn't like to be like held or for you to pick him up. Just super sensory. He hated bath time. And it was a struggle going places, honestly. He would just have meltdowns, and I didn't know why at first, but it was just too much stimulus for him. And so even just something as simple as going to the grocery store or a birthday party, there's just a full-on meltdown, hard to get him to calm down just because he would be screaming and kicking. And so it was a place that almost seemed hopeless for us just because we didn't know how to help him. And we were doing a lot of things that we were right. We had changed his diet. He had no gluten or dairy in his system. And we were trying to do different things. But we found out around that time that he was allergic to 56 foods. And he couldn't have detergents and couldn't be around like chemicals or air fresheners. I was making soap and lotion.
I remember that.
Yes. And So I sympathize with parents because I know it's a lot. And even for those of you who, have a new diagnosis, hang in there. I know it's a lot. It can be overwhelming because you get this diagnosis and you're like, what do I do to help my kiddo? And so that's why, we want to do this webinar just to inform you guys of just, what we've been doing and how we've seen really cool results and great things. Because when you give the body what it needs, when the body can do what it's designed to do, and that's all these products do, then you can flourish and thrive. And so that's why I'm super passionate. Even, do you want me to go more? Because I could keep talking.
No. What I want to say also is one of the things that you and I talked about, so for anybody listening to this webinar, is that there are many different components that have to be addressed. So there's the therapy that kids are receiving, whether it's at home or at school. There's the diet changes that are super necessary. And then there's the part with respect to supplementation. So as we're sharing today on this webinar, we're not suggesting that this is just one piece of the puzzle or one piece of the pie, but this is just a piece that has been significant for so many people. And we're going to share with you what's made such a humongous difference in CJ's life and the lives of so many other kids. And then also we're going to invite you to, and Kamille can invite you to, becoming a part of their Unlocking Autism Now Facebook page and web site, and that way you can stay connected to them because they're the experts. Okay, so again, this is just one piece of the puzzle. So Kamille, do you want to share a little bit specifically about what happened with how you guys were introduced to the products and what specifically you saw in CJ?
Absolutely, yes. And I think Brenda has a picture of the post that my husband put on Facebook, and we just let the world know, hey, our son has autism, and my husband posted, what it's like to be autistic dad. And a friend reached out, a sweet friend, and shared, this gift that we have now, that she just was, hey, I might have something that could help you. I didn't know CJ had autism. Maybe I can, she linked us with a friend, and then she had a great story and all that, just to say, like, we were open-minded. We were looking for answers. As a mom, of course, I had questions like, is it safe? Does it work? Is it real? Like, is it legit? Like, because there's so many things out there. And then even, as a pharmacist, I was just like, is there science backing this? Is like, what proof do we have that this works? And so all those questions were answered, and hopefully we can answer all those in this webinar. But once our friend told us about these products, we tried it, and I was pretty sure like he wasn't going to drink the Axio. And I was like,
is that, and that's because so many kids on the spectrum, they're really particular about what they drink and taste and things like that.
Absolutely. Just very, resistant to change. And so they have their particular things that they like to eat or drink. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to introduce new foods. And so we were really trying to do that. And so I was like, oh yeah, he's not going to drink this. There's no way I'm going to get this in him. And he liked it.
Good.
And so that was just God's kindness, and I'm just thankful for that. But so it was just, he only had like 5 to 10 foods that he would eat, and of course they weren't super healthy. They weren't like veggies or greens or anything like that, mainly carbs. And that's a pretty typical diet on the spectrum. And so we tried it, and crazy, honestly, when I was I put my mind back into those days, and I was like, nobody's going to believe me because he's sleeping through the night. And I almost didn't believe it. Because when anybody knows who has been sleep deprived, even just one day, just how your brain functions, and you're just not on 100. And so to do that for your whole life and just never sleep well, you can just imagine just, the brain fog and just how unclear your brain is. And so he slept through the night that within 2 days, and then the next night, and ever since then. And so that was huge. If that was the only thing.
And ever since then, he's been sleeping through the night. You guys, if you just get that one nugget, that's powerful.
I was like, if I just get that, like, I would have been happy. But there was so much more. We didn't tell his therapist or teachers anything. We didn't want to be biased. We were like, they come to us, you know, then we know, like, we're not just the biased parents, like, oh, we see improvement. And so it was beautiful just seeing, like, you know, even friends walk through the door and be like, CJ, like, just greeted me and looked me in the eye and held my hand. Wow. And this therapist who had worked with him for over a year just be like, what are you doing? You know, his therapist that was with him for 40 hours a week was in tears, because she's like, he's a new kid, you know, he's talking, within 10 days, he said his first sentence. And keep in mind, he only had less than 10 words, and everything was prompted. So it's like, say this, say that. And so stringing together words in a sentence had never happened before. And he, you know, overheard a conversation of me and my husband. You know, my husband was going to run to the store, and, you know, I was like, take your kids, you just leave CJ with me, because, you know, kids on the spectrum, it's hard for them to, you know, just experience just like, even just like opening the door, the air coming in, all the bright lights, just the wheels, they hear everything, you know, their senses are so heightened, their smell. And so normally one of us would just stay home with him. Otherwise it'd be, you know, a meltdown and just throwing things and kicking things. And it was just hard. And so I sympathize with parents out there who are going through that right now. And so, yeah, he walks into my husband's office and he's like, Daddy, can I go to the store too? And my husband was like, babe! And, you know, just from then on, like, we had our first conversation with them.
And I remember you said that he had been, how many hours of therapy? So I want people to understand this. How many hours of therapy was he receiving before this happened?
Oh, he was receiving over 40 hours. Because he was just receiving 40 hours of ABA. So he was receiving probably, you know, 45 hours of therapy. And so it was draining, because they were all, you know, they're always with you, which we're thankful for them and we love them, but it wasn't like, we didn't live an easy life. And I don't think, I just want the world to know, like, it's not easy. And so, for, you know, you parents and grandparents and teachers and just educators and therapists, like, I get it. It's a lot. And so, yeah, I don't take that lightly. So yeah, he was a busy kid. He always had someone trying to just retrain his brain and work with him on things. So I always call him my hero, my trooper, because he, you know, he was always getting drilled, basically. Yeah. And so we had been doing that for over a year, and we were seeing, you know, small improvements. You know, we were seeing things, but it was just, you know, small improvements, like, oh, you know, it took him 6 months to just lick a grape and things like that. So it was just really slow. And then after we tried the products, like last night, he's like, Mommy, is that lettuce? Can I have some? You know, just little things like that. Like, this kid would not eat vegetables. And so I'm just like, he was just more open. And, you know, after going back to the story, when he, you know, talked to my husband for the first time, like, you know, when you can't communicate with your son or your daughter, or just your kid, it's frustrating for them, and it's frustrating for everyone involved. And so I remember 2 weeks before, just hearing about LifeVantage and their products, just how, man, like, I want to just communicate with my son. Yeah. I just want to talk to him and know him and just get in his head. And like, I thought he was brilliant. He was, but it was just like, you know, I just couldn't, you know, get in there. And so, these gifts have given me that, and I will never take that for granted. And I'm always thankful for that. And shout out to the friend who was brave enough to share that gift with me, and so anybody who is scared or doesn't want to share what they have, like, you have to. you have to share this gift with others because it's the hugest gift ever. And so, yeah.
It can literally, I mean, just the idea that you literally can change a person's life. And we're just tonight, you guys, we're just sharing information with you. And what you do with this information is up to you. But we know that we're just changing the lives of so many people. And so that's why we're doing this webinar, because, you know, to see the change in CJ and so many other kids that we're going to talk about. So what I wanted to do, so Kamille, before we, you know, jump into what the products are and how they work and how they're related specifically to autism. So bring us up to date. So CJ said, let me have some lettuce, but he's also in a regular classroom. He has friends. Yeah. I mean, so talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah. So back then he was in a school for kids with autism only. And now he's in a mainstream classroom. He is socializing with his peers, playing with his peers. He's got a girlfriend. Oh my God! At least that's what she calls it. And like, he honestly, you know, like he keeps doing things. Like yesterday, I'm just thinking of this week. He had music therapy, and she like came down. She's like, "Oh my goodness, CJ made his own song. We were doing like music and he like just wrote out his own song on the whiteboard." And I was like, what? Wow. That's impressive. And so just, you know, so many things. He's reading, you know, after we gave him one of the products, he just started reading. And I was like, how did you learn how to read? You know, he's just trying new things. Like he's getting interest in riding a bike and just things that he never wanted to do. Like this month he's been like asking to take baths. And like, I remember years ago where bath time was like screaming the whole time and just trying to get him in the tub. And then the whole time, you know, it was stressful. And so my sister's in town this week, and she was just like commenting on just like how much he's flourished, and just like the last time I saw him, you know, he wasn't doing half these things. And so it's just cool just to see like the cumulative effects and just how his body continues just to soar. Yep. And so that's all I want for, you know, families. And I'm not saying like that these products cure or treat or mitigate autism at all, but it's just when it's in the body, it's just doing what it's supposed to do. And so that's what I want for others. That's really, like, honestly, that's really all I want.
It's powerful. I mean, it's life-changing. And so, yes, because our products are in the supplement category, Dr. Kamille is absolutely right. And that is that as we're sharing, we are not making claims. What we're saying is that when you lower oxidative stress, when you lower inflammation, when you help the mitochondria, when you help to heal the gut, when those things happen, then the body does the work itself, because our bodies are the miracles. And when we activate the bodies, because so many people think that that you don't have an impact on how genes are expressed, we absolutely can. And that's the science of nutrigenomics. So with that, Kamille, let me go ahead and let's share my screen again, and let's kind of talk folks through what are the different elements that need to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's do this. Share screen. Okay, let's see here.
Oh, my Kayla.
I know. I mean, just even if you go back to the prior, I mean, literally, all of a sudden he wanted to go grocery shopping with you, and he wasn't melting down anymore. It's unlocked his brilliance with respect to art. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of the videos that your husband did went viral so much that the folks from the Steve Harvey show reached out to him because of how brilliant he is. So, and again, all from saying yes to giving these products a try. So Kamille, as it relates to the key elements needed to treat autism from a biological perspective, talk about the fact that we're going to be covering all of these things.
Absolutely. I love this because when you think about the body as a whole, it's a whole system and it works together. So even when you think of autism, it's a body disorder. There's so many things that's going on with the body, the brain, the gut, just how everything's interlinked. And so when you look at these 5 key elements, these 5 things right here on the screen, reduce oxidative stress, increase glutathione, improve mitochondrial function, improve gut function, reduce inflammation, these all work together. And so you need all these things. And like Brenda said, we do believe in, diet and nutrition and all the therapies, all those things supplement. But we're going to today talk about and focus on just like, this is like how the body can heal without not even talking about products or anything like that. This is just, okay, autism is a body disorder. It's got all these triggers coming at it. How can we help eliminate those triggers? And huge, reduce oxidative stress. And Brenda mentioned it earlier. Simply, oxidative stress is just damage at the cellular level. Your cells are being damaged. Think of an apple. When you cut it, it turns brown because it's oxidized. Mm-hmm. And our bodies are doing that on the inside as well. As we age, it wears and tears. And you think about, rusting. Our bodies are rusting from the inside out on a cellular level. And so if we can reduce that stress, everybody's trying to reduce stress, right? Because even stress causes oxidative stress. So even when you reduce that stress on a cellular level, then your cells are healthier. And so you want to clean up your cells. And so obviously, just in relation to autism, kids, adults on the spectrum, they have higher levels of oxidative stress. And so I think, when we can treat that, when we can help that load, then that's why we see so many great results, is because they have higher levels of oxidative stress, more so than, a neurotypical person. And so we just want to reduce that just cellular damage. And so did you want to add anything to that, Brenda?
Yeah, no, that's powerful. And so as we continue, you'll see a little bit more about how the specific product that does reduce that oxidative stress. The glutathione, wow, that's a big one.
Yes, absolutely. And I even remember researching when we first got diagnosed, because people recommend in certain articles just to give your kids the IV glutathione. And I was just like, but it only lasts a short amount of time and it's not increasing it that much. And so they would see slow improvements, but then it'd be gone. Right. And so you have to keep, and I know the importance of glutathione because glutathione is just like natural protection, our body's natural protection. And it's just a defense mechanism. So it helps just get rid of toxins, to detoxify. And with kiddos and adults on the spectrum, like, we know their bodies are full of toxins because, there's been studies that's shown that kids on the spectrum don't have high levels of glutathione. And so when you we'll talk about it later, but when you take one of the products that can increase it 300%, I was like, this is a no-brainer for me.
Yes, it's huge. I used to, when I was really super sick with all the issues that I had, I was having like $300 worth of IV treatments every week. And I would get glutathione pushes in the IVs at the cost of $50 per push into the IV. And, so I was spending $300 a week. And so the idea of when I learned that protandim NRF2 increases intracellular production, your own body's production of glutathione by 300%, like you said, I was like, no brainer. I just stopped doing that because I'm like, like you said, it doesn't last long. It's hard to penetrate the cell membrane. So this is such a much better solution. Talk to us about mitochondrial function.
Absolutely. And this science is coming now. A lot of people are studying the mitochondria because the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, taking you back to high school biology. Mm-hmm. And so I like to think of it, CJ, he loves Thomas the Train. And so he always, when his trains are damaged, when the batteries are like low, he'll always be like, Mommy, Thomas is moving so slow. And like, so we have to put new batteries in it. And so that's how I like to think of your mitochondria. Like, you think of the engine and the train or the car. If you have an older damaged engine, then it's not going to work as well. And so the mitochondria is what gives us our cellular energy, and we all want more energy. And so kids, actually all neurodevelopmental disorders, they have a weakened mitochondria. And so we want to improve that mitochondrial function, because then when you're improving the powerhouse of the cell, just think, if you have, a better power source, then the whole cell is going to be healthy, which we'll go into more later. But And then improving gut function is huge because a lot of people don't know, but there's a gut-brain link. Your gut function is so important to so many things. Your immunity, which we'll go into, and just inflammation in the gut can cause inflammation in the brain, leaky gut, leaky brain. And so I truly believe that healing the gut is vital for our kids on the spectrum. Yeah. It's huge. And so we've done several things to just heal his gut and to nutrition wise and supplementation wise, because we know that, your gut, if it's inflamed, if it's leaky, then that's getting into their bloodstream. It's getting into their brain. And so then no wonder they have an inflamed brain, which ties into reducing inflammation. And so it's just huge. And there's several things that can cause inflammation that our kiddos are attacked with. I mean, just, toxins and allergens and just foods. And so I just think, even inadequate sleep can cause inflammation. And so our kiddos not only have just inflammation in their brains, it's all throughout their body. And so no wonder they're having such hard time, speaking, because they have an inflamed brain. And so these things are key elements that are needed.
It's huge. I'm so excited to just you're just, as you're sharing, you're giving me even more. I mean, I've known a lot, but wow, I'm blown away. So let's go ahead and talk about, so today, as we're sharing not pharmaceutical products. They're not pharmaceuticals. They're in the supplement category. And what we're really talking about is the science of nutrigenomics, which is the study of how nutrition and naturally occurring compounds affect our genes. And so these products are actually impacting our gene expression. So Kamille earlier was talking about oxidative stress. And so what science has found is that oxidative stress is literally linked at the root cause of so many diseases. And again, while we aren't making claims that Protandim NRF2 treats, mitigates, or cures diseases, what we are saying, and what a human clinical or a human peer-reviewed study showed, was that Protandim reduces oxidative stress by an average of 40% in 30 days. That's huge. And if that claim is so huge, you guys, because there's not a product on the market that even reduces it by 10%. And it was such a huge statement that, these TV shows like Prime Time and 60 Minutes, and they do exposés. That was such a huge statement that ABC Primetime, they sent John Quinones, an award-winning anchor, to do an expose on the company. We're a publicly traded company. We're on the NASDAQ. And so they sent John Quinones to do an expose, and John Quinones had his blood tested on national television in 2005. And in that expose, it actually showed when they drew his blood, they tested it 2 weeks later, and his oxidative stress had been reduced by 45% in just 2 weeks, okay? And it's up to even more with continued use, right? So there is if you wanna watch that ABC Primetime, you can go to a website called www.biohackingyourbody.com. That's www.biohackingyourbody.com. And so, that oxidative stress is linked to every body function. So Kamille talks about what do we need to do for kiddos on the spectrum and adults. You got to reduce that oxidative stress. So that's why it's so critical. And people will talk about, well, oxidative stress, why is it such a big deal? It's because it's at the front end of all disease processes, right, Kamille?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So good, Brenda.
So why don't you talk about Protandim, Kamille?
Absolutely. So I love Protandim because, and if you can't see on the screen, that you can see the 5 ingredients at the bottom, but because it's all natural. Where'd it go?
You're good.
I love it because it's all natural. And even as a pharmacist, I have, studied and learned about obviously pharmaceuticals. And so I love that it's all natural because it doesn't have the, you know, the side effects that a foreign substance would have in our bodies. And so you look at turmeric, bacopa, ashwagandha, green tea, milk thistle, all really, really good products. Some of you guys might already have your kiddos on one of these products, just knowing just what they do. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is great. These are great ingredients. I know that these are great for, you know, even just detoxing and just overall health. And so that was, you know, just confirmation for me. But also, when you think about supplements or even just, so when I was researching, I just know like there's always, certain people who would just try and say, oh, we got this breakthrough thing and it's great for autism. They'll heal them tomorrow and just try it, you know.
And you're like, no.
And I'm like, no. And so I can be, you know, a little skeptic sometimes just because of, you know, just how our society can just throw things at us and they just make these claims sometimes. And so the fact that Protandim has published science, like honestly, that was huge for me as a mom and as a pharmacist, because like it's not known to have a branded supplement on PubMed.gov, which is just published medicine. So that's like, you know, the doctor's Bible where they go and all the literature is and all the studies and the articles. And so for that, like in pharmacy school, when we took our research class, that was one of the few credible sources that we could use when we did our scholarly journals and research. So that was huge when like I searched Protandim in the search bar of PubMed.gov, you know. And now we have 26 studies?
Yeah, right now there's 23 on the site, but there are 3 more that have been approved for publication, which is right. Like Kamille is saying, this website, PubMed.gov, you guys, that is literally that website is the gold standard. That's where doctors and researchers go to get medically validated information. And to have a branded a branded supplement with 23 peer-reviewed studies, it just they're on PubMed. It just doesn't happen. They're not on there. And so that even lets you know that this product here, the technology of what this does, is truly a breakthrough. It's breakthrough science. It's that nutrigenomics. And like Kamille was saying, you know, I felt the same thing. You know, when I was at my sickest and I had so many things going on, I was on 23 medications. I was in bed, you know, 20 hours a day. People kept saying, try this, try this, try this. If you're listening to this, we can understand how you might be skeptical. We get it.
Yeah.
The thing that we would encourage you to take a look at is, number one, is there science attached to it? The fact that there's peer-reviewed literature on this branded supplement is a big deal. And just to say, you know, for our case, I said for myself, I have nothing to lose and everything to gain by giving it a shot. It's all natural. It's not going to hurt your kiddos. It's not going to hurt any adults. And so what if it could be life-changing? What if this is the thing? For me, I said, what if it was the thing, right? So, you know, again, just the fact that it's got the science, like Kamille said, it's powerful.
Absolutely. And I love,
go ahead.
I love just thinking of Caleb or, you know, any kid or adult on the spectrum, just how this Nerve 2 technology works. Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of like, I enjoy science, and just to break it down simply, like basically it's just activating or turning a switch on, and basically the Nerve 2 just kind of turns the switch on just to clean up those cells. Mm-hmm. And so when we talked about like all the oxidative stress, it's making it all messy and damaged, and so we need to clean it up. And just think of just everybody on the spectrum, they have higher levels, and so the fact that it's been proven to reduce that 40 to 70% was, again, a no-brainer for me, because it's like, if I can help his body just clean up his cells on a cellular level, then of course his tissues are going to be cleaner. His brain's going to be cleaner. Everything is just going to, you know, from the inside out, just clean up. And so that was huge for me, because this is just a new science that's coming to the forefront. And I love that it's just really a scientific breakthrough. And so when I was looking at, there's a article in the Multiple Sclerosis Journal, and I was seeing how it was compared to a pharmaceutical drug, and that Protandim was said to be the most potent or most powerful and therapeutic strategy over the pharmaceutical drug. I was like, wow, that's huge. And that's from a third party, because pharmaceutical companies, they spend tons of money on these studies, and they're going head to head with the all natural supplement and Protandim, so for me, that made me a true believer, just seeing all the science. And I could go on and on about all the articles. I don't want to bore you. You can even go to PubMed.gov and look them up for yourself and search them. And I recommend you to. And, if you're interested in that. But I'm telling you, this is huge. It's been proven to reduce the oxidative stress 40% in 30 days and up to 70% in 120 days.
And that's huge. It's low being able, and when you're so also when we talked about increasing glutathione, so this is specifically the product. Let me just lower this right here. So this is specifically the product, you guys. This is Protandim NRF2. It is proven to increase intracellular glutathione production by 300%. So if you remember that list of things we talked about, we needed to lower oxidative stress. This does it by 40% in 30 days. You need to increase glutathione in your kiddos. This does it by 300% naturally. It lowers inflammation. There are 12 patents on Protandim, 7 in the US, 5 international. And in those patents, the language of the patents is that it lowers inflammation. It lowers the markers of inflammation in the body. And so you're able to address those 3 things with this one product as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And basically all that really means is you get the good stuff, not the bad stuff.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. So one of the things we talked about earlier that was on the list as well was mitochondrial function being really, really important. So Kamille, can you talk about mitochondrial dysfunction? Can you talk about NRF2 and the benefits?
Absolutely. And as you can see on the slide, just all these link to mitochondrial dysfunction. You see autism and you see so many others, epilepsy, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, even diabetes and cancer. There's so many. And if you think about it, that the mitochondria, it converts our food energy into cellular energy, ATP, if you guys remember that from high school. And so basically when I just want to relate it just to, everybody on the spectrum, when you think about just our mitochondria, like I mentioned before, thinking about the engine in the train or the car, you want your cells to be healthier. And so you want them to have more energy. And so I don't want my son playing with a slow Thomas, because then he won't go up the track. And so just relating that to him, I want them on a cellular level, not only to have the NRF2 that we just talked about, Brenda, and clean up the cells and clean up all the free radicals and things like that, but I also want to basically boost our mitochondria. And so I love that NRF1 does that. And it's awesome because we, once we gave him initially the drink Axio and the Protandim NRF2, and then later on when NRF1 came out, we gave him NRF1, and he just started reading. And his teacher was like, he was at circle time reading the book, and I was like, wait, he can read?
Yep.
But I like to think of it like, if you boost your mitochondria production, if you make it stronger, if you're repairing damaged old mitochondria and making it stronger, then of course your cellular energy is going to be better, and your body's just going to be more clear and work better and just function, at its best capacity. It's a term that we like to use, biohacking, which is basically hacking into your body's potential, just be its best, or tapping into its potential. And it's like, these products do that. And I love that, because it's like, again, NRF1, all natural ingredients, in your body, and all it's doing is, your body's supposed to do these things naturally, but lots of things in our environment and just, infections and so many things can cause, just triggers and toxicity in our bodies. But our bodies were actually designed to heal itself. You cut your finger and obviously the whole coagulation process happens and you get a scab. And it heals on its own. And so, but, over time, or if you have, autism, then you have weakened systems, and you just have chemical imbalances, and there's so many things that happen. So I love Nerve1 activation because this is new science. And a lot of people don't know about it, but it's going to be taught in medical schools soon. And so people are going to learn about it. But,
and that's a good point that you just made, Kamille. When we talk to doctors, what we were learning from doctors that got their degrees years and years and years ago is that the science of NRF2 is just now starting to be taught in some, not all, in some med schools. And NRF1 is not even on the radar yet because the NRF1 pathway was a more recent discovery. And so the fact that we literally have these scientists that are bringing to market these non-mainstream, breakthrough technologies is pretty powerful. Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so, and I was just thinking, Kamille, there might be some folks that have a question about the fact that so a lot of times kids on the spectrum cannot swallow pills. Right. And so if you've been thinking that while you're listening to us talk and you're thinking, well, it's great that they're sharing that, but I can't get it in my kiddo, you will be able to. We have, the parents that we work with have figured out, and there's so many different strategies, crushing the pill, Protandim NRF2, you can crush it. You can put it in applesauce. You can put it in yogurt. I know that Kamille, you do a drink concoction for CJ. Yeah. You put it in juice, and then the Protandim NRF1 is a capsule. So parents open up that capsule and they just pour it into whatever they want their child to eat. Right, Kamille?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And, I would love to brainstorm ideas with you because we, even with our different kids, we had to try different things, not only with our kiddo on the spectrum, but one of my other sons, he wouldn't drink the same way as CJ. So you just have to find what fits your family, what fits your kiddo or teenager or adult, and just work at it because it's worth it if you're willing to try it. Exactly. And so, yeah, I love that you said that, Brenda, just because, that was one of my questions was I'm not going to get this in him anyway. So I don't know what, can you just have a mist and he can breathe it in or something? But
you just have to play with, even you guys, people are, there have been people that have been so desperate to get these products into their bodies where they'll even just take slivers of the Protandim NRF2 and they'll just introduce it a little at a time, sprinkling it a little at a time into something and then building up over time. It's really whatever it takes. It's worth the time and it's worth trying to figure it out. I've got a mama where her son only drinks chocolate milk, right? So the way that she gets it into him is she, over time, has sprinkled it into his chocolate milk where now he'll just drink it, and he didn't notice it because she introduced it slowly because she tried a bunch of different ways and he wouldn't drink it. She couldn't get it in him. And I said, well, what does he drink? Ask yourself, what does he drink or what does he like to eat? And then can you introduce it just a teeny tiny little bit so that it builds up, Yeah, but it's so worth it, you guys. Let's talk about Axio, brain food.
I love Axio. So this is the one that I mentioned when I shared a story, and he drank this and then slept through the night, which is crazy. But when you think about it, it actually makes sense because if you think about, those on the spectrum and their brains, just their inflamed brains. And so Axio has that NRF2 activation, which basically just, cleans up the cells and it activates it in the brain. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. And so now just think about Protandim in a drink form and it's going straight to your brain. And so that's why we call it liquid brain food, because it just helps you focus and just gives you mental clarity, increases your energy without crashing. It just makes you like think better and just has your brain working better. And not saying like this is like a miracle drink that treats or cures, all the problems in the brain, but it's doing what it's just turning on your brain switch. And so like, that's why we started unlocking autism now, because when he started drinking this, like he had information in his brain, but it was trapped in there. It was locked in there. And it was like when he started, this drink, it unlocked his brain. And so we've always said that it was like happening right before our eyes. And so I'm not making any claims, but what this drink does in your body, it just makes your body do the work. And so that's why I love Axio.
Yep. I think it's really an one of the doctors that we work with, Dr. Brimhall, he actually believes that it's one of the most underutilized products, especially when we do think about how powerful it is in the brain. Let's see here. So here's an example here of a child actually who had ADD or ADHD, and you see the writing sample before Axio and Protandim NRF2, and then just a week later on his results of handwriting. And so, just the idea of think about your child or think about a friend's child and that boost of confidence that they get. It's like, and that boost in self-confidence is powerful, right?
Absolutely.
Look at this. And we're seeing kids whose grades have improved. We've got kids where, because of how their grades have improved and how their behavior has improved in the classroom, that their the IEPs are being written so that the child can drink the Axio in the classroom because of how powerful it is. Just so that you know, there are 5 different flavors of Axio. There are 2 decaffeinated versions. There are 3 caffeinated versions. But you guys, for kiddos, don't be afraid of the caffeinated version. And Kamille can talk to that because there's an element in that that's really helpful for brain function. And so what we really recommend is for the kiddos to have both of these. And what we do as parents, will give it to them over the course of the day. So Kamille, can you explain briefly why the parents should not shy away from the caffeinated?
Absolutely, yes. Because you may be thinking, my kid's already hyperactive. Why do I want to give them caffeine? But just think about, on the pharmaceutical side, they have medications that are stimulants, and caffeine is a stimulant because it stimulates the brain. We think that our kiddos or, those on the spectrum are, hyperactive or, always stimming and flapping and jumping and super energetic already. But the reason why they're doing those things is because their brain's in balance. So it's not necessarily that their brain's overactive. It's underactive. So they need it to be stimulated. And so that's why, on the pharmaceutical side, they give them those stimulants to actually like calm them down. And so it's similar in that sense, just on a natural side. And I love that the Axio, because sometimes, people will ask me like, well, if I had to choose one, which one would I choose? We do both, the caffeinated and the decaf, just because I know that the caffeinated one has the ingredient in it that's really good for brain health, and that's the DMAE.
Yep,
and it's just the one on the slide, and that one's not in the decaf version. And so CJ gets both of those because of that, because it's really important. I mean, you can see on the slide right here just how it supports the function of the brain. And so don't be scared or nervous about, well, there's caffeine in it, I don't want to caffeinate my child. It's a really small amount of caffeine. It's not even as much as a cup of coffee. I think it's probably 1/4. Is that right, Brenda?
I think about half a cup of coffee, like a cup of coffee, but it's extract.
Extract, right. And
so it's not the equivalent of,
it's a natural.
Yeah.
Yep, it's a natural source. And so that's why I like it, because you still get that energy boost, but you don't crash
Right.
like you would after drinking, maybe an energy drink or something like that. And so,
Exactly.
so I drink this too. And I know, right?
I don't go without it,
Yeah, Axio goes quick in our household. It tastes well, and like I even can feel just the effects of just my improved brain function. Not because it treats anything that's going on in my brain, but just because it's just optimizing my brain, and so.
My husband drinks it before his workouts. I mean, I drink it throughout the day. I've got cognitive dysfunction as well because of some of the health issues I've had. And so I have short-term memory issues. And as a result of drinking this, I know that my brain is functioning better.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's take a look at this example here, you guys, because this is powerful. And again, we're not making any claims, but we're just wanting to give you guys examples of, here are natural products that are activating the body. The body's doing the work. This is the son of one of our friends that's dear to us. And actually, she's the lady that actually introduced Carrie Williams.
Yes.
Williams sat with Kamille and Josh and their family, and she shared her story. And so, Luke was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And his parents got him on the Protandim NRF2. So the sooner you get your kiddos on Protandim, the better the results are, even at that age. And it's interesting because he was doing well, right? And he was advancing. And there's some speculation. Again, we don't know, but there's some speculation that taking Protandim NRF2 so early helped him not sink into the spectrum even further because you're reducing oxidative stress, increasing glutathione, lowering inflammation. But here's the power of here's the power of Axio, okay? So when Axio came out, Carrie was thinking, a little bit like some parent might be thinking, my child does not need to take an energy drink, right? So she wasn't planning on giving him the Axio. Well, one of the doctors said, Carrie, you're missing the point. This is about activating his brain. This is about penetrating the blood-brain barrier and lowering that inflammation. He says, you've got to give your kid the Axio. So here's a wonderful objective example of what happened just with adding the Axio, okay? And here's why we're so excited about it and wanted to share with you guys. And that is, okay, here's just to talk you through it. This is his class. The teacher measured all the students on knowing their letter names and knowing their letter sounds. And so there's 21 kids in the class. Luke is number 18. So before Axio, when the teacher tested the kids in September, Luke was way down here. You can see right where he was. He doesn't even register for letter name, but he does register for letter sound right here. Well, we introduce Axio later that September. He starts drinking Axio. That's the only change that they did. Well, this teacher tested all the kids in February, the following February, from September to February. And just with Axio being introduced, all of a sudden, here's where Luke is testing. And he also was receiving tons of therapy. He was, seeing a chiropractor. And it was interesting because the chiropractor that was seeing him literally said that his speech and his function improved by 50% just in that time frame, like a 3-week time frame of him seeing Luke after the introduction of Axio. So again, that is why Kamille and Josh, again, we keep talking about unlocking autism now because it's all in there, but these products help to unlock their greatness.
That's such a beautiful story.
Say again.
That's a beautiful story. I just love that story.
Awesome. I mean,
that was the story, that we heard that, just started all this. So it's just, it touches my heart.
Powerful. So, okay, Kamille, I'm going to throw this slide over to you. You were mentioning earlier the importance of helping to heal the gut for kids on the spectrum. Can you talk to us about why that is and talk about what makes ProBio unique and different from the other probiotics that folks might be using on the market?
Absolutely. And just to those, in the autism community, you guys are probably familiar that those on the spectrum, they have tummy issues, that they're either constipated or they have diarrhea. It's, or both. In serious cases, he would go back and forth. And that's because 95 to 100% of, those who are autistic have gastrointestinal dysfunction or, tummy problems. And that's because they have leaky gut. And you think of your tummy lining as, a mesh or cheesecloth, and it's like some things can go in, and they keep the bad things from coming in. But if your gut is leaky and it has holes in it, then these big old proteins are going to go in and they're not supposed to be there. So your body starts attacking it. It's like this whole immune dysfunction. And it's just, you can see on the slide, all the things that it can cause. Just anxiety, depression, fatigue, headaches, constipation, diarrhea, eczema, all those food sensitivities, and always sick and having sinus issues and colds. And that was our life. And so we really believe in healing the gut. It's just vital, not just in autism, but in everyone. And so I love probiotics, and we were trying a probiotic, but we were still not getting the success that we wanted. He was still, in and out of constipation and diarrhea, but that's because, most probiotics on the market, you're not absorbing what you need. It's usually around 5 to 20% that you actually get absorbed. And so, just thinking about the acid, won't bore you with the science, but basically, if you think about those on the spectrum, they already have gut dysfunction. They already have tummy issues. And so you want to heal that, but you're like, okay, well, I want a probiotic, but which one do I use? Because there's so many out there. And that's where I was at. And I was just like, you go to a different doctor, they suggest a different one. And so you're just like, I just want to help, I just want to help. And so that's why I love ProBio, just because it has the BioTrack technology. And what that just means is the way it's formulated, the way it's made, it's so that every single, good bacteria that's in it, it goes where it needs to go. And if you think about 5 to 20% about most probiotics get absorbed, we are, correct me if I'm wrong, Brenda, 60%, my brain, I'm having a brain fart right now.
Yep, gets to the gut, yep.
Gets to the actual gut, deep in the gut.
That's crazy.
Yes, deep into the gut where it's supposed to be. And not only that, you think about those on the spectrum always have, ear infections or colds. I love ProBio because it also has Wellmune in it. And you can look at all the science at, I think it's wellmune.com, but just how awesome Wellmune is. And it just boosts the immune system. And you think about our kiddos or, anybody on the, I keep saying kiddos, sorry, I know, it's not just kiddos. I just keep thinking about CJ. But 70% of people on the spectrum have immune, dysfunction. And so we really want to support not only the gut, but also the immune system. And so I love that this product does both of those. And so the survival rate, is super low. 4%, sorry.
Yeah, for most probiotics.
Yeah, for most probiotics. I was thinking of like the expensive ones, but so anything on the shelf is super low. You're not getting much. And so I love that, it doesn't, and even how it's formulated, like it doesn't have to be refrigerated. Yep. And so I like that because we were currently using one that was in the refrigerator. And so when we traveled, it was just harder to just keep up with it. And so it's just super easy for, parents or, supporters in the community just to, give this to a kid. And even, I had a doctor tell me, honestly, if your kid can't even swallow one of the caplets, which they like reformulate them so they're smaller, which is awesome, that even crushing it is better than the majority of probiotics out there. So that was huge for me.
Okay, so you can crush this one. That BioTrack protects it, but for kids on the spectrum, because this is such a great probiotic, even crushing it for kids on the spectrum is okay. Awesome.
Yep. And now, TMI, but my son, his digestion is great. He's not constipated. He doesn't have diarrhea. He's always, regular. And that's important. I mean, it sounds gross, but in order to get rid of your toxins in your body, that's, you know, your fecal route that's one of the huge ways. So if your person on the spectrum is constipated, just think about how those toxins are blocked up in their body, and that's not good for anybody.
So be absorbed into the system.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So probio is and then let's see here. Okay, and then we have omega, and that's another important component with respect to lowering inflammation, right? So can you talk about why our omega is different and why it supports kids on the spectrum?
Awesome. Yep. We could tag team this one too if you want, but I love omega. I always have, and I really like ours because of the blend that they have put in this. There's just new science coming out about omega-7s. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about, you know, the standard American diet, we get a lot of omega-6s. And so most omegas that, you know, even the one that I was buying, just their blend, their ratios are off. And so you want your person, you want yourself even I take it, just to have a right blend so that your body can reduce that inflammation like it needs to be. And so usually we would get it from, like, you know, some foods, but now our foods aren't even, just because it's so processed and things like that, we're not even getting the right ratios of the exact omegas. We really want high ratios of 3 and 7s because we get so much from our diet in the 6s. And so we're just, you know, accumulating those 6s. And I love that the 7 is great for improving the metabolism and things like that. One huge thing I love about this certain product is that you can trace exactly, you know, which boat your omega fish oil, where they caught the fish and extracted it, and they tell you the exact process. And it's huge because that just gives me so much trust. Just that the company would do that they would make it traceable from the exact boat, which is huge. And
no fishy burps, because most people are afraid of burping the fish oil. It's because it's rancid, right?
Yep.
And so for our kids on the spectrum, one of the things that's really unique about this is that it actually tastes good. You can literally, we have people that will take the little the little omega, and they can slice it, and they can put it, I mean, like, we've sliced it, we've bitten into it, we sliced it and put it on our tongue. So you can eat, and it tastes lemon lime. It's got a lemony lime type of flavor to it. So again, it's something that you can easily get into your kiddos.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just squeeze it into his cocktail, and honestly, like, I suck it after because it doesn't taste like, I've actually had to squeeze certain fish oils and they taste really bad, and the burps are nasty. And so I do, because of like that lemony flavor, you can't even tell the difference. You can squeeze it on like a homemade chicken nugget, or you get, you know, something that's oily, or just, you know, you can chew it. And I actually do that.
We do have people that chew it. I know it sounds weird, you guys, but that also, again, you know, integrity is really an important part of who I am and who Kamille is. And so we're able to share with you products that we love and have a ton of conviction over, and we have seen people try. So if you've got questions, follow up with us later about, you know, what are some tips, what are some hacks, what are some ways of getting these products into your child, especially if, you know, you've got that concern. Because I tell you, we work with a lot of parents, and we just kind of, because it's so important to get it into them, that we figure out the different ways of sneaking it into different things so that they get the value of the products into their bodies. So, you know, oh, go ahead, Kamille.
I don't know if I mentioned vitamin D. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
But I love that in this blend that they also add vitamin D, which is huge, especially for those on the spectrum. There's so many studies about vitamin D, and, you know, in our culture, we're not necessarily, you know, absorbing it from the sun anymore. And so, it's vital. You know, the majority of, you know, people are actually vitamin D deficient, and it's even more so with those on the spectrum. So this was huge for me because we were already giving him a small dose of vitamin D, but honestly, like we even saw improvements just in his overall sensory health when we added the vitamin D. He just, he would sometimes still have, accidents and things like that. But once we started him on this omega, not saying that it making any claims or anything, but like we really could see a drastic change in just how and because it was reducing inflammation, we just saw like his brain just seemed clearer, and like he hasn't had an accident since he's been on it. So except one time, and it was because we forgot to give it to him.
So that's, I mean, again, it's like, it's powerful, you guys. It's exciting to hear, CJ's journey, and it impacts the entire family. And so you guys, this is just, an example of, again, we aren't making claims that these products will treat, mitigate, cure, prevent disease, okay? We've been talking to you today about biohacking. We've been talking about using the science of nutrigenomics to activate the body. These products simply flip the switch on the body so the body does the work. And, here we have, and I have this little collage, we talked about CJ, we talked about Luke, and there's Adrian here, beautiful Adrian, who was nonverbal and just, on heavily medicated. And you can just see the look in her eyes, you guys. And then her being introduced to Protandim, NRF2, and the difference that it made, and being able to get off some medications. And then, again, Protandim NRF1, that mitochondrial product, when that product came out, they introduced that and they gave that to Adrian. And here you see, and that picture of Vacation 2016. So here's with 2014, but then the addition of Protandim NRF1, she started speaking, and she's even more vibrant. And you see Aiden, Carmen's son, just like Kamille was saying, Aiden was nonverbal, very limited diet, and now, he is eating all kinds of foods. He's speaking. He's got a humongous sense of humor. He's a little wise guy, and he wants to touch, and he wants to hug, and he wants affection. And he'll ask, "I want to hold your hand." Here's hope. We've talked mostly about kids from an autistic perspective, but also we want to think about, kids with ADD, ADHD. Here's hope. She was heavily medicated on pharmaceutical drug, and her mother was like, my baby is like a zombie. She's lost her personality, and by introducing Protandim NRF2 and Axio to her and a good probiotic, she was able to get off of that med, and she's vibrant and she's doing so well. And so, here you have this other little one, and you just see the difference, just the pictures don't lie. You see the difference in the faces, and you see the difference in her affect here. So I want to stop sharing. So Kamille, any final, words that you want to share with folks as we end here? We do want to encourage folks to, we want to encourage you to, any questions, get back to whoever invited you on the webinar. We can get you information on pricing. Kamille, what is your website again for folks to, and also actually folks who are, want to have a consultation with you and Josh, they can schedule consultations to just even go deeper on this. So tell me a little bit about how can folks reach out to you guys?
Absolutely, yes. Please reach out to my husband Josh and I. You can send an email at info@unlockingautismnow.com. So info@unlockingautismnow.com. And you can also, we have a Facebook page, Unlocking Autism Now, and a landing page, unlockingautism.com. And so please reach out to us. That's why we created this, just because we'd love to give you more information, and we'd love to hear your story. We'd love to just have that one-on-one connection if you want more information, because that's what it's about. And honestly, like, I'm not trying to, sell you on anything. I'm not a salesperson. Honestly, like, genuinely, I just want to share this gift that was given to us that's changed our lives drastically. It's changed Brenda's life. It's changed my life. And just seeing friends with other, their kids on the spectrum and trying products and just hearing, they're always keeping me updated on just what's going on. And so that's what it's about. It's about.
I lost Kamille. I think Kamille got booted off for some reason. I'm by myself here. I see that she's no longer on the webinar. I don't know what happened, you guys, but that's okay. So, hey, listen, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining Kamille and I today. A lot of information, but we wanted to take the time to go deep into giving you examples of why these products have been so useful and amazing for families, changing lives. So again, if you have any questions, reach out to the person that invited you to watch this webinar. And with that, I'll wish you a good day. And I know that Kamille wishes you a good day as well. Take care. Bye-bye.